Hi everybody, I'm Jack the Rambling Raconteur. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great week. I'm going to do a quick book tag this evening on Tuesday night. It's going to be the Around the World in 8 T Prompts tag. It was created by Book Time with Elvis, who's just been slaying it, giving us marvelous original tags the past couple months. I was kindly tagged by Tom at Tom LA Books. I'll link both their videos in the description box below. Let's jump in. Prompt 1 is theater. Do you read plays? Yes! I not only read them, my wife and I enjoy going to plays. And not just musicals, like plays as well. If so, tell us about one of your favorites. There are many. I really do enjoy drama and reading drama, as well as seeing it in person, seeing it performed. One play that I really enjoy that I don't see too many people discussing is The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. And Webster was creating plays in sort of the generation after Shakespeare. And while The Duchess of Malfi and The White Devil is another strong play, but The Duchess of Malfi is the one I prefer. While the characters in the play do not have that sense of consciousness, interiority, developed to the same level that Shakespeare's best, characters do in his plays, this is a romp of a play. No quarter is given by characters for anyone, including their family members. And some of the poetry, there are some absolute zingers in the poetry. So to me, it's one of the finest examples of Jacobean tragedy and one that I highly recommend. Prompt 2, travel. Sadly, we can't travel these days, but do you have a favorite travel writer or travel book to take you away on armchair adventures? I haven't been really reading a huge amount of travel writing, I think in part because I can't travel right now. But there is a work I'm going to talk about in a later prompt that would probably fit into this. Most of my travels more recently have been of the imagination. So, since Tom tagged me, Dante is a fantastic travel writer when he takes us to these incredible places called Inferno and Purgatorio and Paradiso. And I'm just enthralled by the descriptions of what's going on in each of those locations. The other one, the other great imaginative work that I think of, one that just sends me imagining places I would love to go to one day that maybe I really can't, would be Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. I really enjoy this book. I enjoy just the descriptions, the slight sense of absurd, descriptions and surrealism, and it's something I enjoy, just reading a page from it or a chapter from it to my daughters, and I think it's very imaginative work. Prompt 3, time. What book took you the longest time to read, and why was that? Well, Tom was great about pointing out that, and this was something Jason Harrigan had pointed out, is that in a tag months ago, was that there are books that you never really finish reading because you're always rereading them. So there are books like that for me. But a book that I read through in a sustained read-through that took a long time was Les Misérables by Victor Hugo. And not just because it's long. This is an extremely long book. It took me a long time because I read it at a rate of about 100 and 120 pages per week. And I wouldn't necessarily sit and read all 100 to 120 pages in one, Saturday or something. I would read a little bit every couple of days across the week. And the reason I did that with Les Misérables, and I've done it with other works from the second half of the 19th century, is a lot of those works were originally serialized, so the readers of the time didn't take the book and then try to page through these massive tomes. They read them in installments. And so I find that allows me to get through these longer works and to enjoy them. I'm not trying to power through them. I get to actually enjoy the works. With Les Misérables specifically, I actually finished it on the day our second daughter was born, which was fantastic. And I enjoyed the book immensely. Prompt 4, traditional fairy tales or nursery rhymes. What are some of your favorites, and what are some you would not think suitable for kids today? I don't think most are suitable for children these days. I think a lot of them are designed, particularly the more traditional ones, are designed to educate / more indoctrinate than educate children. Follow directions to be good. Of course, the Grimm's fairy tales are magnificent. The Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales are a little different. They don't quite feel like they're for more specifically to indoctrinate children. But I enjoy many of them. I did a couple of videos on fairy tales in January that I will link below, But I will add that my single favorite adaptation of a fairy tale would be The Red Shoes by Powell and Pressburger. Just magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. And has an extended ballet sequence that is extraordinary, like nothing I've ever seen in cinema. Prompt 5, tasty food, glorious food. What are some of your favorite books about food? Well, this was one that could have been sort of a travelogue or could have fit in for the traditional tales, and that would be Mules and Men by Zora Neale Hurston, which includes all of those things. It's a cultural ethnography of the southeastern United States during the Jim Crow era. But within it, there are also descriptions of the food and the drink they enjoy at the various, campsites they're out, at the tent meetings they go to, and it's would have been a time. Would have been a time. Prompt 6, terrible. Who is a truly terrible, nasty, but memorable character that stands out for you? There are so many. There are so many it could be. But one who as I was thinking, I was trying to think of someone who really would scare living daylights out of me. And so Scylla, we have from Ovid's Metamorphoses, from the Odyssey, of course, of Homer, but then as well in Madeline Miller's Circe. Both of these two books give sort of an origin story for Scylla that makes her quite a bit scarier than the monster that's in Homer's Odyssey. Prompt 7, truth. The truth is often stranger than fiction, they say. Give us some examples from your extensive reading. I don't have the book with me here. It's actually in my classroom at school, because it's one I always enjoy sharing with students. But it's a book called The Disappearing Spoon. And it goes through basically describing how different elements from the periodic table were discovered and how they acquired their names. And so it's grouped not in terms of like chronological order of discovery, but it's grouped into, there are certain elements that, they were named because of their appearance. And then there are other elements that were named, in classical times. And then there were other elements that were named sort of, there's like an artistic reference, an aesthetic reference to the elements. And then what's really fascinating are the elements that, particularly in sort of the modern era, there were elements that as they were discovered, it became a way to score points for your hometown, your home country, specifically as there were national tensions. There would be a way to, an exiled scientist might discover something and then name it for a home country where, the scientist has been exiled from, kind of as a way of thumbing the nose. And so there are certain elements like polonium that exist that way. So that was a really interesting book and a really interesting approach to sort of understanding a historical perspective on science. And one that I just highly recommend. Prompt 8, tag. Make up an 8th prompt directed to those you wish to tag. Please stick to the theme of tea, and then we have to answer the previous person's, the tagger's, made up prompt. And Tom, and all these T's, these alliterative T's, Tom came up with 20th. What's a book that gave you a good description or idea of the 20th century? And this is what I'm reading right now, and it's the Penguin Book of Modern African Poetry. And that's because I think it encapsulates so many different ideas that exist within the 20th century. The way that the continent of Africa and the peoples of Africa not only were treated, historically the past couple centuries, but specifically within the 20th century, the way that generally European nations and European people had so maltreated Africa and everyone who inhabits it began to be illuminated and interrogated in some very long due ways. And so many of these poems become part of that. There are some absolutely fantastic poems in this book, but so many of them deal with the realities of war, of strife, of oppression, and of determination. The poems are organized by African nations that the poets originate from. And so Angola's first, and Angola went through a very long period of trying to break free from, being a colony of Portugal. And then later on, there was violence, in the aftermath of that. And so the poets of Angola, many of them are very fierce in their like, cries for liberty. And it's really extraordinary to be, reading this and seeing just how much of what we still want to see change in the world was and is happening in in my lifetime, even, you know, and I'm in my mid-30s. So this is a great volume. Highly recommend it. My prompt will be T for Terraplane. Do you read while riding in cars, buses, or trains? I do. I generally don't get sick while doing that. Sometimes I found if I'm sitting in a train and it's, you know, I'm basically being pulled backwards, that's a little disorienting for me. But otherwise, yeah, I read in moving vehicles. So I'm not sure who has not done this tag yet. I don't know if Summer at Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats has done this tag. And I don't know if Lucas at Bits of Litz has done this tag. So I'll tag the two of them and find out if they terraplane like I do. Thank you, everybody. I hope you're doing well.